two safeties, same picture, every snap until the ball's in the air. And then there's somebody else. That's the Devontae Jones defense. Disguise first, identity later. And in Washington, he's got four players built to live in that lie. Nick Cross, the trigger, downhill, physical, the guy who sells too high and shows up in the box. Quan Martin, the chameleon, slot one snap, robber the next, apex the next. 12 different pictures, same jersey number. Sonny Styles, the cheat code, 6'5", 244, and runs a 4.46. A linebacker who covers like a safety, or a safety who hits like a linebacker. Pick your poison. And then finally, Malik Spencer, the brain. 4-year Big Ten starter, deep half thinker, the guy who makes the disguise actually hold up on the back end. 4 players, 1 lie. Let's get into how Washington plans to tell it. Okay, everyone, welcome back to Asia's Analysis. And so this is probably the highly anticipated safety video that I've been talking about. So we are closing out my defensive scheme position group analysis with the back end group, and that is our safety group. And so we have a lot of new visitors here. So I want to thank everyone for the support. Also, if you have not seen my collaboration with Rio over on Rambling with Rio, please go check that out, where I do discuss all things offensive scheme and defensive scheme in the 2 new coordinators. But I do want to establish a little bit of housekeeping. So because you are probably, most of y'all, new here, you're just tapping into this video. For this to make sense, you have to follow the series from the beginning. So you're watching this video, you have questions, or you want to hop in the comments and challenge me on something, I do want to challenge you to go back and start with the defensive scheme comp video, and then watch the defensive line edge room, then the linebacker video, then the corner video, and then work yourself back into this video, because I've had quite a few interesting comments, right? And so I've had people on cornerback videos saying that I left Leo Chenal out of the discussion. Leo Chenal is a linebacker. I don't know why he would be discussed in a cornerback video. I have people on my linebacker video nitpicking me about not discussing coverage terms and concepts. And I don't know why I will be doing that on the linebacker video when safeties dictate coverage. So I just want to save everyone from some embarrassing interactions in the comments and just get ahead of that. So please watch all of the videos before coming at me in the comments. I'm a very nice person, but I also don't have patience for bad faith arguments or mansplaining. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It's a lot going on in this video. The safeties are the backbone of a Flores scheme. They do a lot. They do all of the heavy lifting. I think you guys have heard me repeatedly say, throw physical prototype traits away. Throw the depth chart away. And I'm still watching videos where people are talking about free safety, strong safety, and certain people, how they don't want certain people playing in the free safety role, and how Nick Cross is a strong safety and is going to be in the box. And I don't know. I've said repeatedly, this is not a traditional scheme. So these guys' alignment has nothing to do with how they're listed on the depth chart. I don't care if they're listed as a free or strong. I don't care if you've seen Nick Cross primarily work in the box with the Colts. That does not mean that's how he's going to work here. It does not even mean from one step to the next he's going to be in the box all the time. They may move him around. So again, I have to ask everyone to suspend your understanding of defensive schemes when we are talking about this Devontae Jones Flores scheme on the back end, it is unlike anything you have ever seen before. Flores' back end is only run by Flores. No one else does the things that Flores does in the back end of his defense. And as I've already stated, Devontae Jones was his right-hand man and his passing game coordinator on the defensive side of the ball. So he was very integral to the main DNA of this, which is the disguise principle. So the front end is very chaotic and aggressive. And then the back end is the very opposite of that, right? It's extremely conservative. There are no aggressive man concepts in the coverage in this type of scheme. So everyone who keeps trying to find lockdown corners and people to bring in, please stop doing that. That just is not something that is prioritized on the back end. They need IQ folks. They need smart people. They need read and react DBs, y'all. They need off-ball DBs. This is zone heavy, and you're going to learn that. This is a zone heavy scheme, and I know we are not used to that on the NFL level. We are used to two safety high, cover one, cover three, and then man on the outside, and that's just not how this scheme works. So please just throw away everything you think you know. Let's stop thinking about the depth chart as free safety, strong safety, right? Moving forward, let's go safety 1, safety 2, safety 3, safety 4, because their alignments have nothing to do with how they're listed on the depth chart. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of hybridized deployment of there's a lot of deployment of hybridized personnel. So again, we're going to have linebackers playing safety in the alignment. So we have to just be careful about how we're thinking about this when we're talking about these players and in which ones we want and which ones we don't want. So before I actually get into the presentation, I want to take a beat here and I'm going to do something different. I'm going to lead with the video. So we're going to pick up where we left off from the corner video on the film breakdown of the Flores scheme on that Detroit game. And so we're going to look at some of the things that the safeties do, because I think for you guys to truly understand how this works, you have to see it first before I get into it and explain it. So let's take some time out to watch the video breakdown.
Of the blitz forces protection mistakes. And here's where Flores becomes a nightmare to play against, because he doesn't just spam one trick. Going back to play earlier in the game, we're going to see the same look that we saw cover 2 man pre-snap. But just as offenses add wrinkles into their scheme, so does Brian Flores. The corner at the snap instead covering the receiver blitzes, creating a almost instant pressure behind Goff. And what that does is clear out the extra blockers and it leaves Van Ginkel with a free shot at Jared Goff, because the corner, number 2, passes Jameson Williams to safety and stays underneath for anything short. It causes Goff to hesitate, and with Van Ginkel right in his face, he moves left. Nothing's open there either. The safety took over coverage for Amon St. Brown, and that leaves Jared Goff with nowhere to go with the ball, and he's sacked. So now you're stuck because you can't even trust the tendencies. You can't just say, okay, well, last time it looked like this, so it's going to be like that again. Flores has evolved that. Flores punishes the pattern recognition. And on the very next play, we're going to see something completely different from before. It's cover 3 pre-snap. But once Goff's eyes are down, the defense starts to morph into another coverage very late into the play, from cover 3 to cover 2 robber. With that, the defensive back comes down into the middle. What the Vikings' goal with this is a late blur of change in coverage to make the QB think he's seeing the safeties one way, and he throws the ball accordingly, because it's a different game when you're actually there on the field playing the game versus watching it on film. The Vikings are also presenting a 6-man front. Post-snap, multiple guys simulate attacking but drop back. Goff fires it to Gibbs over the middle, but it's almost tipped, and even if Gibbs catches it, it's going to be knocked out because of the barrage of Vikings defenders present there. That's Brian Flores in one sentence. He turns safe decisions into dangerous ones. Detroit is a perfect example of...
Okay, now that we're back, let's get into this presentation. Okay, let's start with what we're going to refer to as the back-end shell game. So the connective tissue is the disguise principles, right? So for the most part, the schematic foundations is that the Vikings show 2 high safeties on more snaps than any defense in football. Then they rotate one safety down into a robber, a slot, or a free runner after the snap. The quarterback's pre-snap read is always the same picture. The post-snap reality is always different. So understand that Devontae Jones plans to bring these principles to our scheme. We don't have to question it. I think a lot of people being very uncomfortable and confused about the fact that he did not draft any DBs. And we are still moving forward with the players we have in the room, and we're not comfortable with the players we have in the room. This is going to be a draft and develop type of approach on this back end. It is very complex. It's very complicated. We cannot rotate a lot of one-year rentals into the scheme, y'all. So y'all are going to have to, and because it's a very conservative scheme where the schemer does all the work, the players just have to mind their assignments. I think for the most part, he is comfortable with his room, right? So I think we're going to just have to move on and kind of just throw last year away and Joe Witt. I think once I finish this presentation, we're going to find that for a lot of these players, they were miscast and they were not used properly. And I don't know what Joe Witt was seeing in the scouting report, but for the most part, he did the opposite of what the scouting report told him to do with certain players. So, you know, I'm just going to get ahead of this on there's going to be a lot of Quan Martin in this, and I know how y'all feel about one Jartavius Quan Martin, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and get ahead of everybody before y'all hop in my comments. Okay. If you don't want Quan on this roster, come the beginning of the season, that's fair. And I'm not going to argue that point with anyone. I spent most of last year watching Quan play going, this dude is not a free safety. What is going on? Like, I don't want him on my team. And so as I did my research, I ended up down a very severe rabbit hole behind one Quan Martin. And I am one of those people that when I'm presented with new information, I reserve the right to change my mind. So I will be changing my mind around Quan Martin here. So yes, if you guys feel like I am blaming coaching and not holding the player accountable, I'm going to get ahead of you and say, yes, I am very much blaming Joe Witt and possibly DQ for what happened to Quan last year. I don't know why they chose to use Quan in the way they used him, but there was nothing ever in his history or tape that indicated that he would be a successful free safety. So I am under the impression after my research that Quan will be not in the free safety role. So yeah, so this presentation is going to heavily focus on how we get Quan Martin back on track, right? But y'all, just so you know, Caleb Downs was on the board. And they took Sonny Styles, just to let you know. If they were that concerned, they would have drafted Caleb Downs. So they're fine with what they have. And I don't know if post June 1, we're going to see any other additions to that room. I think there's an undrafted free agent that has an opportunity here. And also, I'm just going to get ahead of some things here. I will not be talking about Will Harris in this video. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. He's 30. He's on the last year of his deal. And so I'm not, if he gets an extension, he's veteran depth. So I have not been focusing any of these videos around veteran depth pieces. So this is about the young core that they're building, right? So let's talk about this back end. Okay, let's get into it. So the system rests on 4 ideas. One, disguise first. And that is going to be the 2 high shells that rotate late, showing the same picture until the throw happens. So there's a lot of motion on this back end. The quarterback's going to see one thing pre-snap and then post-snap another. Ball disruption. So Devontae standard. And I don't know if y'all have noticed in some of the film breakdown of the Vikings, you notice players are constantly, their head is in the backfield. You do not see people carrying and running with receivers. They are handing receivers off throughout the zone to other players. So there's not a lot of holding up you have to do. And this is why they're comfortable with Mikey. And this is why they're comfortable with Amik. And this is why they're comfortable with Quan. Because these are primarily read and react defensive backs, right? And so the scheme prioritizes downhill triggers, players who play downhill aggressively, strong tacklers, and people who are able to get their hands on the ball. So they want ball production. They don't care about locking down receivers. And because they don't care about that, they don't prioritize that in the personnel that they pick for this back end. So ball disruption, his standard is tackle at the level of the ball. Every rep is a pass breakup or interception rep. Takeaways are the currency. Ball is life. So when you're watching PS2 and Stingley and Gonzo, you're getting jealous because they're running around and their length is, they're getting 50-50 balls and they're winning on the 50-50 balls. That is not what this scheme does. So let it go. You have to believe me when I say let it go. I am providing all the evidence I can. That's why I'm inserting videos in these presentations so y'all can see. Please move on from those thoughts. A lot of y'all are in my comments arguing with me about Mikey with your misplaced anger because you're mad that the GM drafted Mikey and didn't take a Cooper DeJean or Quinyon Mitchell. I know what half of y'all are upset about. Y'all wanted something different. And so instead of sitting here misplacing that anger on the Mikey, how about y'all just be honest with that and say you're pissed off at AP, right? Because I mean, that's what I see. Like, Mikey didn't draft himself. So if you want to be mad at AP, just be very clearly state that I'm mad at AP for drafting Mikey. I wanted the lockdown corner. I wanted Cooper DeJean. I wanted Quinyon Mitchell. Just say that, right? So, but arguing with me about objective facts I'm presenting on Mikey. Mikey has never been a lockdown corner. He's always been a read and react off ball defender. That's the scouting report. And the fact that y'all just are upset that he plays to his scouting report makes zero sense to me. So take that out with Joe Witt, who tried to turn zone off-ball corners into press man corners in his scheme. Be mad at Joe Witt for that. That has nothing to do with me. So the frame equals the job. So this is why I keep telling y'all, stop trying to box these players in. I know Nick Cross's tape at Indiana with the coach shows him as strong safety in the box. That is their scheme. He also has some traits that allows him to play free safety. So I think you're going to see him all over. He has 4.34 speed, and he can play the post better than Quan. So stop worrying about who's playing the free. Everybody's playing the free. It's a free safety by committee, y'all. Post snap, they start shifting and moving and doing different things. You do not want the same player playing the same role, okay? The whole thing about this scheme is to punish the pattern recognition. And so they don't want to put on tape that one player plays the same role all the time. It's the opposite of disguise. So let's throw away the terms free safety and strong safety. That does not exist in this scheme. He keeps 3 hybrids on the field at once. 3 hybrids on the field at once because they play in the game a number of alignments, not one. So Nick Cross's 4.34 speed is going to allow him to carry and carry receivers vertically, whereas that is not something that Quan does very well. So I do not think they will have Quan carrying tight ends and carrying routes vertically. I think he's going to trigger downhill, and he's going to play the robber role and do some other things. He's going to be your apex defender. Sonny Styles, 244-pound body, plays the box. And Martin's 195-pound frame plays the apex. And I will explain what an apex defender is here in a minute because that was something that was new to me. So let me see. I have that here. Hold on one second. So the apex is an alignment between the slot, wide receiver, and the offensive tackle. It's a hybrid position that can rush, cover, or fit the run. This is where Quan's tape lived. College. This is primarily where he operated coming out of college. So listen, y'all want to argue with me in my comments? I don't know. Ask Joe Witt why he ignored the tape and put that man as a free safety. I'm just taking in information. Sim pressures. So the safeties walk down as the 6th rusher and bail. So they cover 1 robber, cover 0 runner, cover 3 cloud. Same alignment. Okay. So here are the 3 safety jobs. So the safeties have 3 different post snap assignments. So again, stop talking about free safety and strong safety. Throw those terms away. Post, box, apex, star. Okay. So the post is the single high deep middle, the one that is going to have the eyes on the quarterback and can beat any vertical route. So Nick Cross's 4.34 speed earns him this rep. Okay. This is his assignment in the scheme. I know what you guys saw on tape, and he was in the box, but he is not going to primarily be in the box. Okay. He has traits that gives him range and allows him to carry vertical routes. So they're going to use him to his trait. The box, walk down strong, big nickel, sets the front and heavy, robber on play action, carries the tight end. So that's going to be Sonny Styles. And then your apex star, the overhang and big nickel dime, triggers on the flat, fire B gap on sim pressure. This is where Quan Martin's college tape lived. This is what he primarily did at Illinois. So I don't know why they were trying to gaslight us all last year, trying to make us convince us that Quan was a free safety, unless they were trying to justify them letting Jeremy Chin walk in free agency. So people need to ask those questions of DQ and AP. This is why we're getting we're fine with Quan. And this is why we're getting weird responses about Ben Sinnott, because the players that they screwed up on, they're trying to quietly course correct. I found out this weekend that Ben Sinnott, we had a wide receiver offensive analyst coaching tight ends this entire time. No wonder Ben Sinnott sucks. He hasn't had a tight end coach his first 2 years. He's had a wide receiver coach. Cliff hooked this homie up with a job. So I don't talk to me anymore about Ben Sinnott. Okay? He finally has a real tight end coach. So I've been presented with new information there. I'm not changing my take. I will reassess Ben Sinnott after this year. And I'm reassessing Quan after this year, because I do not know why they had this young man playing free safety. He very clearly has never succeeded in that role. So let's go to the, and here's some notes at the bottom. So there's a 44% blitz rate, just these metrics, and behind that blitz, they run a 62% clip to high shell with the safeties. So there are 5 safety driven coverages. So the safeties do all the work. And I know you guys have been fussing with me about Mikey on my cornerback video, and I've tried to tell y'all so many times. The safeties are the corners. So there's always 3 safety-like hybrids on the field at once. And so throw the depth chart away, because the hybrids are the safeties. If he has a linebacker safety hybrid, just count them as a safety on the depth chart. So Kane Madrano, Sonny Styles, and Sonny Styles. And then you toss in a Nick Cross. And then you toss in a Quan Martin. And then I'm going to talk about this undrafted. They have about 5 hybrids, right? So I think they're comfortable with their depth chart. You guys keep looking at this through the lens of a traditional scheme, and that's not what they're doing here. So you have to include the hybrids in your assessment of the depth chart. Just stashing a bunch of people on the depth chart as a free and strong safety so you can feel comfortable does not mean that they're going to see the field. I don't know if Will Harris sees the field a lot, because we have Sonny Styles. And so Sonny Styles is going to play a lot of safety in this post-snap coverage a lot. So again, that's how it works. All right. So let's talk about one Nick Cross. So Nick Cross is our Harrison Smith. Okay. So He's the Swiss Army knife. So he's the Swiss Army safety. I guess that's how they put it. He can play the deep middle one play. He can play robber the next. He can come off the edge the next. He's the same player, but you will see him in a lot of different alignments. Okay. So and I do have Nick Cross. If you don't believe me, go watch his tape. I have him being the anchor of the safety room. I don't see anybody talking about Nick Cross. I see people talking about Will Harris, and I'm very confused about that. Do not talk to me about no Will Harris, y'all. I'm sorry. I need y'all to start saying Nick Cross's name more. I don't know if y'all forgot we picked him up, but he's the younger player. He's 24. He's coming off a rookie contract. Like this is year 5. He has 4.34 speed at 200 and something pounds. That is force and velocity coming downhill at you. He has the range of a free safety, but he hits like a strong safety. So it's a no-fly zone with one Nick Cross. He's going to lay you out. And he blitzes like a nickel. I've seen him come off the edge on his tape. He's fast. The speed translates to the field. His 2025 production, 120 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 5 pass deflections, 1 interception. He was tied first among safeties in run stops and pressures. So why are we talking about Will Harris when we have Nick Cross? Y'all have to explain that to me. His footprint is he's had 1,111 defensive snaps in 2025. He never came off the field. He anchored that safety group for the Colts. Okay? So y'all sitting here, I think y'all should look at all of the players that were on the squad last year that were high up in the depth chart. Just mentally move them down the depth chart. They went out and got free agents and raised the ceiling of every room. So Quan moves down the depth chart. Will Harris moves down the depth chart. This is a theme. The only ones that didn't move down the depth chart were Mikey and Trey, because they like them. But a lot of our edge rushers move down the depth chart. I talked to y'all about Luvu. Like, where does Luvu fit in now? Because look at all the linebacker help, right? We have new coordinators who brought their own people in. And so a lot of people that we were trying to like pass off as high level starters are not in this new regime. They've been pushed down the depth chart. We have high level starters, right? So I need Nick Cross's name a little bit more. I watch a lot of videos and people are just not talking about Nick Cross enough. And we need more videos out here about Nick Cross. Y'all are totally disrespecting my guy. Okay. He's him. Like, so he plays all the games. I'm not even going to talk about injury. I'm knock on wood. I don't even want to curse him. He's an Iron Man. His deployment was that he's a post free safety. So he plays in the post somewhere where Quan should never live. That's where Quan really struggled. He's a robber. He's an A-gap mugger. He's a slot match. And he is a edge blitzer. So I know y'all see his tape and he's in the box and you want to label him, well, he's the strong safety, so who's going to play free? Stop that. He's going to, that's not how this works. You're going to see him all over the place. He has up to 9 different alignments he may show up in the game, in one game. 9 different alignments. So I don't care if y'all want to call him a strong safety and however way you need to wrap your head around this, just know 9 different alignments per game in the Harrison Smith role. This is how they use Harrison Smith. He's all over the place. So this is how he's projected in our scheme. For tackles, 105 to 115. Lighter box work because of his range and his speed. We're probably going to use him in mugged up looks more. The scheme is fundamentally different. They primarily used him as a box safety in the run game to handle run stop. We have Leo Chenal and Sonny Styles, right? So we probably won't be using him too much in run stop. We're going to be using him in other ways as a chess piece. So we're going to be using him in mugged up looks and some exciting things. So just keep your eye on Nick Cross. His projection for pressures is 22 to 26. So he had 16 prior, 4 to 5 sacks. The disguise in the scheme is going to unlock him because he's going to play so many different alignments. They're not going to be able to, on tape, identify a tendency in where he's going to be. Coverage, they're projecting about 3 interceptions and 8 pass deflections. The match rules cut his target. Now, I keep telling y'all this is a zone. This is a hybridized zone man scheme. So it's a match zone. There is no press man. There is no carrying receivers by individual players. So because he does not have to cover a player throughout the entire route, his targets are going to come down because they're covering space. All of these players on the back end are responsible for zones and space. They're not playing man. So snaps, 1,050 plus. He is going to be a 3-down anchor. Okay. The top 5 safety grade in this scheme. So no, I don't. Y'all, I have not responded to any response. Like, so if you guys go ahead, don't watch this video and say, well, where do you see Will Harris? I see Will Harris as a rotational depth piece. I'm sorry. And I think because Quan played so bad, you guys have revisionist history about Will Harris. His PFF grades and his metrics were no better than Quan's. He just looked better. Quan just looked particularly bad in terms of the eye test. And Will Harris was so injured for most of the time that he just was not out there for most of the bad stuff. But like, no, in my opinion, and based on my eye test, he did not stand out as being significantly better. I'm sorry. I just think we like picking on Quan to the point where we want to create this narrative that Will Harris is this elite safety or something. I don't know. Like, no. He didn't show me anything that makes me feel like he should be prioritized over Nick Cross. I'm sorry. So the fit is Cross is our Harrison Smith. You line him up anywhere. The call doesn't change. He shows the post. You don't know if it's coverage, blitz, or a robber until the snap. All right. So let's get into Sonny Styles. And because I already told you guys, in this scheme, he keeps minimum 3 hybrids. And so that means that it's going to be a 3 safety look. He keeps 3 safeties at all time. Now, the safeties may not be listed as safeties on the depth chart, okay? Sometimes the corners are going to post-snap bail out into a safety coverage, and they're going to be the safeties. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Just, like, break your minds of what you did. This is not a normal scheme. So just stop thinking about it through a normal scheme, through the lens of a normal scheme. It's just not. Okay, so Sonny Styles is our Josh Metellus, y'all. So he's going to play the Josh Metellus role. He's 6'5", 244, 4.46, a linebacker who covers like a safety. So he's Jones's everywhere all at once chess piece. I think this is like the 3rd video I've mentioned Sonny Styles. I talked about him in the linebacker video and what he's going to do in a front 7 role as a linebacker. I've talked about him as a hybrid big nickel because I had somebody tell me I was wrong in how I was discussing Sonny Styles because the Vikings don't use Buffalo nickels. And I'm very confused at how you have been watching. Well, you very clearly have not been watching all of the videos because I made it very clear. The fact that we drafted Sonny Styles allows for us to diverge a little bit in our deployment of personnel. We have way more hybrids than the Vikings do. They have Harrison Smith. They have Josh Metellus. They have Van Ginkel. They have one hybrid type role on each level. We have multiple hybrid type roles on each level. And so I'm telling y'all, he's building something that's going to be a little bit better than the Vikings in terms of personnel deployment and what he can do to dictate to the offense. His sub package deployment is going to be crazy because he's got a different player and he's got multiples of all of his multiples. So he's got multiples of his hybrids. So he has hybrids who can play multiple roles, and then he's got multiples of his hybrids. This was some elite off-season like roster construction. And so for everyone who likes to blame AP for the players we had under the Joe Witt regime, all you have to do is objectively look at the player personnel acquisitions under Joe Witt and the player personnel acquisitions under Durante Jones. And I think the one variable you can take from that is that the GM acquires personnel based on scheme. So if you have a bad scheme, you're not going to have a lot of great personnel that you're acquiring, right? All Joe Witt did was went out and get big body D ends in his offseason. And he left the linebacker room alone. The linebackers were the problem. He didn't even assess his problems the right way. So he got rid of all his speed rushers and went out and got a bunch of like, big body D ends that could hold up blocks and set edges. And then the second level, so you can set edges now, but the linebackers are so slow they can't scrape. So he didn't know what he was doing. Okay. And when I get to this Quan section, that's going to be very clear when I get to this Quan section of this presentation. So Sonny's profile and role. His frame is that he's a linebacker size, safety range. He ran a 4.46 at 244. His coverage, he's going to carry the tight ends up the seam, y'all. So, don't even worry about that. We got that covered now. No more of what we went through. All that trauma from last year with tight ends leaking out on us. Nope. He going to man up on the tight ends. No more leaking out. He had an 80-plus PFF grade versus tight ends at Ohio State, y'all. He's elite at covering tight ends. He's going to erase the tight end in the coverage. That is your eraser. He's a green dot defender, so he's going to set the front. So we can keep pretending like they're going to give the green dot to somebody else. We already know. He's going to, versus the run, walk down strong. He's going to edge set heavy personnel. I have him and, McGee doing that because of their lateral speed, sideline to sideline, in their strength. Versus pass, mug and bail. So post snap, he's going to be a robber robbing back from the front. And then we're going to have safeties robbing back from deep into, so there's going to be multiple robbers out on the field. And then again, I already talked about how he's going to carry the tight end. And then versus quarterback, he's going to sim pressure off the edge or be a gap blitzer. And I don't know, there's recent video out here of him doing edge rush drills that I didn't have him coming off the edge, but I've seen video of them in camp of them doing edge rush drills with him. So I think he's going to be coming off the edge too. DQ sounds like they like what they see from him as an edge rusher. And I have kind of seen videos of the Ohio State linebacker coach saying the only reason why they didn't use Sonny off the edge, it had nothing to do with him. He could have done it, but they just had too much talent. So they had Arvell Reese. So it's like we want to use Sonny in coverage. And that's why Sonny doesn't flash, because he's doing everything else, holding up the defense in that scheme. And I will admit, I am someone who I get caught up on the edge rushers. Listen, they're like the quarterbacks of the defense. They are the ones that flash. And so when you're evaluating tape and looking at stuff, your eyes immediately go to the edge rushers. I'm going to always fall in love with an edge rusher. So I missed it. I was not impressed with his Ohio tape, but he is literally doing everything else, y'all. He is covering tight ends. He's stopping the run. He's reading, he just does everything. So I do anticipate that he's going to function like that in our scheme as well. So here's the projection numbers. His usage is going to be 70% safety, 20% linebacker, 10% slot. So he's a 3-level chess piece. His production is going to be 85 to 95 tackles, 5 to 6 tackles for losses, 3 to 4 sacks, 1 to 2 interceptions. I absolutely have Sonny Styles being in the defensive rookie of the year conversation because of how this scheme functions and how he's utilized. His pressures is going to be 18 to 22, so he's going to be part of the sim pressure package, which is going to unlock his rush angles. And then his impact is that he's going to let Cross play deeper, right? So this is where all of y'all are looking at Nick Cross's Colts tape and you're going, he's strong, he's going to be in the box, he's going to be in the box. And so who's playing free? Because I'm not comfortable because Nick Cross is going to be in the box. You guys are still not evaluating these personnel groupings within the context of what the scheme, how the scheme deploys, and all the other pieces we acquired. Having a Sonny Styles allows for you to play Nick Cross deeper as a free, and this actually helps to unlock the disguise. So what does this look like? Well, this looks like a possible 5 alignments per game for one Sonny Styles, right? So he's going to play about 5 different positions in one game. So that's why it's very important that we stop trying to, like, if someone is on a 1-year deal on this back end, just like identify a younger person on a depth chart on a multi-year deal. My mind and how I look at things, they're going to prioritize the person who is on a multi-year contract over the 1-year person, because they need them to be developed within the scheme. And so that's why I have Will Harris a little deeper down. And this, I do have Quan being out in the field, y'all. They say they okay with Quan. So that's why I'm talking about Quan in this video a lot. So the chess piece is that Flores built the role around Josh Metellus. Jones built this draft around finding the next Josh Metellus, and he got a 1 in round 1. I don't understand how, like, people constantly ignoring us over here, like we're just like not a real franchise and we're not building something. People are like doing stupid trades to kind of like get Mansour Delane. I had someone in my daggone comments going, I would have got Mansour Delane. I don't know why y'all are falling in love with these lockdown corners for a scheme that doesn't need lockdown corners. Like, I am very confused by that. I have said it in every video. This is zone coverage. They don't carry receivers or follow receivers. And you talking about a Mansour Delane? I mean, I do not care. Sonny Styles is way more valuable in this scheme than a freaking Mansour Delane. Okay. So invert cover 2 for Buddy that was lecturing me about not talking about coverage. He told me, Buddy was like, learn cover 2. I'm like, dang, I know what cover 2 is, but I mean, what does that have to do with a linebacker video? So here I am talking about cover 2. Invert cover 2, the robber lies. So 2 high pre-snap, robber post-snap, quarters look, Tampa 2 reality. Okay, so y'all, this is where it gets very complicated. And this is why we all just got to trust the coaching staff when it comes to personnel, okay? Because they're looking for position agnostic players. They're looking for read and react DBs. And they're looking for players who have played agnostically on the college level. So I know y'all might see a safety out there that you want because they're a big name safety. They're not used to playing as a hybrid in a scheme. So that's not valued. So while Quan Martin absolutely should never play free safety ever again, he's perfect for the robber role. And this is where he lived in college. So we're going to start our Quan Martin apology tour here. And there's about 2 slides dedicated to Quan. And if y'all are still after this, like, no, get Quan on my team, I don't want to see him, that's fair. But please don't argue with me in the comments about Quan, because I'm making it very clear. I've been presented with new information, and I'm changing my mind about Quan. I trust the coaching staff. So the disguise, they're going to show 2 high. So there's 2 high safeties. And then they're going to play Tampa 2. So pre-snap, both safeties are 12 yards deep. The quarterback reads quarters. Now, quarters is like inclusive of this, the he's going to read quarters because those corners are going to be off ball too. So everybody in the backfield is just going to be off ball, lined up off ball. And so you're not going to be able to determine the coverage because the safeties are going to be aligned at the same depth. And if anybody here who plays wide receiver, this is why I'm big on a Diggs, right? Remember, I kept talking about I want Stephon Diggs for this Vikings game because this is where you need experienced wide receivers who can read coverage. They are paying attention to how deep the safeties are aligned. They're paying attention to where the cornerback is with respect to the safeties. And so when you line people up in quarters, those rules do not apply. You can't read the safety depth appropriately when you're in a quarters look, right? So they use quarters a lot because they don't want to give away the coverage. So at the snap, the strong safety drops into the robber hole while the corners bail to deep halves and the mic carries the seam. So this is a look where your corners are going to turn into safeties. And then other people in the scheme are going to take the position of the corners and hold the wide receiver. So this is why I say you need corners that can press and bail. Press man, it's not a trait valued. They just need to be able to sell press and play leverage. But press and bail is more important because the corners themselves are going to drop back into safeties in the look. And then when Sonny Styles, the mic, is going to carry your tight end up the seam. And so all of our big body safeties and Sonny, right? So Nick Cross and Sonny Styles are going to be underneath. And Quan. We're going to talk about Quan in his scouting report. But Quan is the apex defender, right? And so Quan's going to live in the box, y'all. He's going to be in the box. I'm sorry. If somebody can get this video to DQ, they better put him back. Put him back in the box. I'm sorry. I am so upset at Joe Witt for ignoring the scouting report. If y'all don't put him back, if I see Quan anywhere other than a box this season, everybody needs to be fired. And that's inclusive of Durante Jones. Put that man back in the box, please. So why does Quan Martin fit the robber role? He's a skilled, strong safety. He's aggressive. He comes downhill. He dishes out hard hits in the box or the flat. This was his 2023 scouting report. Okay? So his trigger, he has a 90.8 PFF pass rush grade in 2025. He was first of 88 safeties. So his downhill burst is real. His ball skills tied 6th in the P5 and forced incompletions in 2022 in college. And so we saw this. The reason why Mikey and Quan flashed in that Detroit game, because that's one of the few times that Joe Witt played zone. And I feel like Joe Witt went back to that Detroit game and literally was like, yeah, we can let Jeremy Chin go. Because, like, we got a stud in Quan. And we're good with Mikey because he plays zone. And they're better zone corners than they are man. And so I just think he ignored all of the negative things about them and basically focused on that one tape. And so I know that's what he did. Like, Joe Witt just strikes me as the type to do that. Like, just ignore the scouting report and just focus on that one Detroit. Yes, that's why they look so good in the Detroit game, y'all. It's the one time he played zone. And so he played a coverage that leaned into both of their skill sets. And then he came back and then tried to turn them into man corners and have them play man all last year. And that's why they struggled. So I look at trends. And this next, you're going to see a trend with Quan. 2025 is an anomaly, y'all. 2025 is an anomaly. So rotation IQ. Illinois ran inverts and post-snap drops with him as the piece. when I say that they're fine with Quan, you do not have to believe me, but he played in a similar type of coverage scheme in college. Durante Jones, in his presser, said that he evaluated him when he was with the Vikings. Quan popped up on their scouting report because he played a lot of the concepts that they run in the Viking scheme. And then he just happened to land with a franchise that didn't know what to do with a position agnostic DB. And so I'm on this apology tour because this franchise have effed Quan up significantly because they don't know what to do with his traits and his skill set. He is a jack of all trades, but he is a master of one thing, and that's the box. And for you to look at his scouting report in the tape and ignore where he struggled and have him play exclusively where he struggled is some I don't even know, Joe Witt. But I know one thing, in 2026, y'all better put that man back as the apex in the box. Put him back. So why does he fit here? He has a defined pass concept window. One of the things that when I was doing my research is that the reason why he doesn't fit at the free is because he's too twitchy. So he gives up leverage. He's too twitchy. He cannot read route concepts throughout the entire route tree. He has a very limited route concept read. So you have to define the window of the routes that he covers. So he's best triggering downhill post snap on digs and crossers. He cannot carry the post. And that's why he looked bad. So let him read the quarterback's eyes and let him jump routes. And I've already told y'all this when I mentioned Mikey. When you take a read and react corner and you make them carry a receiver throughout the route, they have to turn their back to the quarterback. They can't read them. And so you're making them play in the way that they're not comfortable. They need to read and react. That's how they need to jump routes. So there will be no top-down carry asked of him in this scheme. So his projected alignments per game is 6 in this role. And so, yes, Quan played in a similar type of role in college. And so I do think that Durante likes him because it's not going to take Quan long to pick up these concepts. He's used to being position agnostic and playing multiple roles. And he's going to put Quan back where his college tape lived and where he did had his most productive where he was most productive as a player. So that is why I have Quan Martin as my lead candidate in this scheme. So right scheme, right job. Move him off the post. Give him the apex back. So this is his profile, okay? His pedigree. Quan played 5 positions at Illinois. He was a boundary corner, a field corner, slot, free safety, robber. He played everywhere was his scouting bullet, and it still is. In 2023 as a rookie, he broke in as a slot corner. So when I was doing research, the last regime saw him as a slot corner. He was a slot corner, okay? Yeah, 191 of his 365 snaps in the nickel. He had 46 tackles, 2 interceptions, including a 59-yard pick 6 off Dak in week 18. Slot is where Quan's tape lived his rookie season. Slot and the box is where his college tape lived. In 2024, he had a leap. So he had a career best 87 tackles and 2 interceptions, including a divisional round pick 6. We saw it. He had 3 forced fumbles, 942 snaps. Then here comes Joe Witt with his daggone bright ideas. Oh, he could be one of the league's better safeties. So, you know what he did? They let Jeremy Chin walk, and they moved Quan permanently to the free safety. And I did not know this. I had to go back. Because he played slot corner as a rookie, and then he kind of split free safety snaps with Jeremy Chin in 2024. Fundamentally and objectively speaking, 2025 was Quan's first year full-time as free safety on the NFL level. I'm throwing 2025 away. I was looking at that like, so he basically was a rookie in the role. Like, if y'all don't put that man back in the box and stop gaslighting us, this regime has been the most gaslighting regime ever. They be to tell us that Quan, to come into that season and set the expectation that Quan was this elite safety, when y'all had him playing out of position or probably in the worst role out of all the roles he's played, out of all the alignments, free safety was his worst. Like, get Joe Witt out of here, but I'm so glad that man is gone. I'm sorry, y'all. Do not hop in my comments arguing with me about Quan. I don't want to hear it. I do not want to hear it. Joe Witt ignored the scouting report. Like, what is Quan Martin supposed to do when the coaching staff ignores the scouting report? So here's how the scheme is going to unlock Quan. You're going to move Quan off the post, put him where his college tape lives. So off the post. Nick Cross now owns the deep middle. Martin stops chasing vertical routes he wasn't built for. He does not have the range. That's not what he does. All of his triggers are downhill. His coverage grade was bottom 10 league-wide there on the apex. So that's why you guys are getting we're fine with Quan. You're getting we're fine with Quan because the real story is, yo, we effed up with Quan. That's the story. So on the apex, the slot / star roll in big nickel, palms reads, trigger the flat, rob the curl. His twitch plus ball skills, 4 forced fumbles for his career, hit at a full volume. Downhill triggers, send pressure from the slot. Disguise cover 3 cloud. The Flores DNA was made for him. This is a scheme made for Quan. So this is why they weren't lying when they was like, nope, we don't want Caleb. We like Quan. This is the perfect scheme for Quan because it bends to all of his better traits. And he played in a similar type of, this is what he did in college. So it's not going to take him long to pick it up. So his 2026 projection, year 3 jump as the apex safety. So Google what the apex does. That's why I told y'all to stop talking about free safety, strong safety. Those are just depth chart things, but they have very clear roles. So start defining these guys by their role in the scheme. So he's the apex safety. And then Sonny's the box safety. And then you have Nick Cross as the post. And then within one game, they can change and exist anywhere else. They don't have to live there. So he's going to get a lot of slot snap volume. He's going to get trigger reps. So this is going to help him with the takeaways. So his PFF grade should jump from a 48 to an 82, possibly. That's a projection. So it takes him out of the bottom 10 and into maybe a top 25. But more ball production. So because he's jumping those underneath routes, the ones he's comfortable with, he can be a read and react DB like he's meant to be. He can get those interceptions. So it's apex triggers plus slot blitzes feed takeaways. 60% is he's going to be a slot star snaps. So he goes from free safety, backpedaling and dropbacks to overhang reps. 85 tackles. He's going to be able to trigger downhill. So he gets his downhill volume. I do not want to see Quan Martin trying to tackle at angles anymore. That was the problem. You had him in open field space, tackling at angles. He's a better downhill tackler. So the run fit role suits him best when you put him in the box and he has more condensed space to cover. So the call is this. Quan didn't regress as a player. He was miscast as a free safety. And so I feel a little bit better because I spent all last year going, this dude is not a free safety in the NFL. He did not look like a free safety. He looked out of place. And that's because they played him out of place. So now I feel like, okay, I feel a little gaslit, but now I feel a little bit better in that I wasn't seeing things. Slide him to the star, let Cross own the post, and you get the 2024 version of him back. So let's talk about Malik Spencer, the undrafted free agent steal, because I'm treating him like he's going to be on the roster. The only way I see this young man not making the roster is if he F's up really bad. Like, we didn't have draft capital, y'all. We didn't have many draft picks. So I don't know where we were supposed to be drafting all these different roles. That they had to be very judicious and go best player available. So just because they didn't draft a DB doesn't mean they didn't have DBs on the board that they wanted. So I'm keeping an eye on Malik Spencer. You know why? Because he's multiple. He's multiple. Okay. So here's his profile. His background is that he played linebacker and wide receiver in high school. Linebacker and wide receiver. You know what that means? Ball skills. He can read route concepts. Okay. That's what our DC values in traits. He was a letter winner at Michigan State, 29 starts, 173 tackles, 13 pass breakups, 6 tackles for losses, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. What have I been telling you about this scheme? Ball production. So he gives you ball production. His traits is that he reads the quarterback eyes. So another read and react DB. Range and instincts over elite speed. And I think he slipped down AP's board, because if y'all Google that man RAS score, y'all already know how our GM feels about RAS scores. The RAS score, he was like, I'm going to let the tape do the talking, because his RAS score is ugly. So he's not one of our RAS demons. But he does have the range and instincts, and he's really good at tackling in space. So versus the pass, he's a quarter safety / robber, and he can cover the number 2 that's handed off to him, and he's able to drive on the dig route. Versus the run, he can walk down strong, he can play as a big nickel, and he can be as a third down safety linebacker replacement. I have this young man making the roster because he plays so many positions. So his projection is that the deep half thinker, and I'm calling it the X-Men room because they're all mutants. They do different things. They have a lot of things they can do. So his fit is he's a Flores too high and post snap rotation. So the scheme rewards IQ over prototype traits. So he's a quarterback eye reader. He drives the dig and crossers. And what the deep safety is asked to do, he can tackle in the open field. I looked at his tape. He is he tackles very well. He's very aggressive. And he's good. He can, he's an open field finisher and closes the runs. He can beat the front. So that's critical at the free safety position, his depth. So they have him behind Nick Cross and Will Harris. So he won't, the only opportunity he may get if he just completely outperforms Will Harris as the veteran on the roster and jumps him on the depth chart. And then if something happens in terms of injuries. So this is the depth for me, y'all. This is kind of this is the other free safety. So I get that people are not comfortable, but I have Malik Spencer in my mind penciled in as the other free safety. The only way he does not make this roster is he completely just stinks it up in camp, y'all. I cannot see them ignoring his traits and his tape and the fact that he plays all these positions. That y'all know that is what the scheme prioritizes. So so you see all of his his metrics from his senior year, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody, when you're having these conversations, can we talk a little bit more about Nick Cross and Malik Spencer when we talk about the safeties? Because I'm seeing a lot of talk about the safety room, and you guys are so caught up on Will Harris and Quan, like that's the only thing they have going on. Y'all have to look at the safety room within the context of Sonny Styles. Toss a little Nick Cross in there, and then Malik Spencer. And you got like 5 safeties. We have 5 safeties, y'all. So I think we're good on safeties. All right. So let's close this out, right? So here's the identity. The front is aggressive. The shell is conservative. We need discipline. We need high IQ. We need everybody to man their assignments and not play outside of the scheme. So I'm seeing Trayvon Diggs names. I'm saying y'all keep wanting to bring everybody in because they are these aggressive pressman corners. And that is just, we cannot have players who are overly aggressive in this scheme. We need very smart, boring players at the end of the day. So the identity is same picture every play, never the same coverage. So 2 high pre-snap shell, multiple post-snap shells. They play quarters, Tampa 2, robber, cover 0, all one look, and they will deploy those coverages in one drive. So just keep that in mind. Disguise blitzes off the slot in the apex. Zone behind pressure, corners off islands. Win on the first down, lengthen the third down. So that's why Caleb Vaughn was like, nah, I'm going to go over here to Washington. Caleb Vaughn going to get his pass rush reps. Because the way that they play the first and second down, he going to get his opportunities. I seen a video where it's like, I think he can get, look, it's 17 games in a season. He can get 10 sacks, y'all. That's an average of approximately 1 sack a game. He can get 10 sacks. Like, I think it's not hard to get 1 sack, right? So, like, I know there's a lot of sacks to go around, but Google the sack rate. Like, they do average a high number of sacks in this Flores scheme. People eat. They sack the quarterback a lot. So there's plenty of sacks to go around. Trust me. So no, that's why Caleb Vaughn came over here. And I think he's going to get his bag in the offseason. And I do think he can earn a contract extension with us. And I honestly think he would come back and work something out, because why would you leave this scheme? This is a nice scheme for incentive-based contracts if you're an edge rusher. It's fun. And they let you play free and aggressive and do you. All Caleb Vaughn going to do is go to another team that's going to try to force fit him into a very boring basic scheme, which his skill set, I don't like him in those type of schemes. So we'll see. So you guys, because they play a lot of zone, corners are never on islands. So I'm no longer talking about lockdown corners. I'm not even using that word in this scheme. They very intentionally deploy zone the way they do to they want to keep players off islands. So this is why you see in the Vikings scheme, they don't have all these elite players in their scheme. So the personnel. So we have round 1 hybrid, Sonny Styles, the chess piece, versatile and position agnostic pieces in Quan Martin and Malik Spencer. And then you have the single high range with Nick Cross, with Will Harrison in there as depth, right? So that's what we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 safeties, y'all. I think they like what they got going on with the safeties based on this deployment. So this will lead to 20 plus total possible alignments in their package. 20 possible alignments. They are going to dictate, right? They're going to dictate. So I'm going to close this out, right? And let me pop this out so you can see this. So I was just online looking at some things, trying to find a way to close out this whole series, right? And I wanted to, this is a Vikings insider, and this was when he talked about Devontae Jones and what he could bring to the Commanders. And this is a quote. Brian Flores is not an easy guy to work for. He's very demanding, very exacting. And Devontae Jones was his right-hand man. So I do believe Devontae Jones is going to be demanding, exacting, attention to detail. Every great coordinator got their first job somewhere. The degree to which Flores does the unexpected or unconventional is impossible to replicate. But I'd be shocked if Jones doesn't try to be aggressive and not sit back and let the offense dictate terms. This will no longer be a defense that allows the offense to dictate terms. Okay? So the way he's going to deploy this defense and the personnel, he's going to bend the scheme to the offensive personnel on the other side. It's going to be a chess match. And he's going to always find the win for everyone in the scheme, right? He's never going to have someone out there where they have a strategic disadvantage. And that is what Joe Witt did a lot last year. Why is Bobby in there when they have identified on tape to target him with these tight end routes, right? Joe Witt never adjusted for that. He just kept letting it happen. And he wanted Bobby to somehow find something in his, I don't know how old Bobby is, but he wanted Bobby to dig down and find speed from somewhere that he didn't have and coverage skills that he didn't have, right? And so that kept happening because he did not bend the personnel in the scheme to what was going on. He was supposed to have a different personnel to deploy, right? If Mikey's not good and run fit, he should probably not be the nickel anymore. He should probably bring in a big nickel Joe Witt. I don't know. But no, we're going to keep Mikey in the slot and let him keep getting gashed on outside zone runs. And we're not going to bitch Marshawn. We're just going to keep him in there and let him keep getting targeted and cooked as the cornerback one. And Quan very clearly in the scouting should have never played free safety. But hey, we're going to put him over there anyway. And then when he starts struggling, we're just going to keep him in there. Joe Witt, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Witt. So, you know, I'm rounding out this series by saying I hope everyone has been following along. And as I close out this series, now I can get into the schedule and give you a real analysis of how I think we were fair against the schedule. And I think you will find that this defense is going to allow us to be very competitive. And for the first time in a long time, our quarterback is going to have complementary attack. He's going to have a more balanced attack on the offensive side of the ball, and he's going to have a defense to complement him. And there's going to be games where the defense, for once, is going to carry, and Jaden doesn't have to do all the work. And if Jaden has a defense that doesn't require him to constantly play Superman ball, he can play on schedule. He can stay in the pocket, right? And that will decrease the opportunities he has of getting injured, scrambling, trying to make big plays outside of the pocket. So all of this is very important, right? I know I've been focusing a lot on defense, but over the last 2 years, I've had enough time to determine that this is what Jaden needs. Y'all can keep giving him weapons on the offensive end, but at the end of the day, he needs a defense like this. He needs a defense that's going to flip the field and get turnovers and give him great field position. He needs a defense that's going to force 3 and outs, that's going to allow them to play the punt game and dictate field position in that way. And don't forget, we have Jalen Lay now that this defense is going to set him up nice to set us up really good on the field position, right? So I have Jaden working with very good field position. I have him, like, these are the type of things that people don't think about that helps your young quarterback. So as I close this out, I want to know how people are truly feeling about this defense now that they know how it works from front end to back end. And do you think that this is a defense that can go out and keep us competitive on any given Sunday? Because as long as you can compete, you have an opportunity to win. So as always, thanks for joining me. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.